That's not fair getting me choked up right out of the gate. A lot of things going through my mind as I was watching that tape, including some pretty random thoughts like, should I bring the mustache back? I don't know. I kind of rocked it, I think. No, that was very special, and it reminded me why I'm such a very, very lucky guy to do something that I love, and with people who I love and adore. And you saw a lot of those folks in my life who make it so wonderful to come to work every day and wake up, and people who are in my corner. And I just want to express my gratitude to everyone who was a part of that tape. That was very moving. It knocked me back on my heels a little bit. Mark and Chris, thank you very much. Marcella, what wonderful introduction. Thank you very much. And had a great day today. Even before this, I got to visit the Cronkite School. What an amazing modern broadcast institution that is. I spent an hour doing Q&A with some of the students, and when I sat down with them, I said immediately, look, you're all intimidating me. I don't have a formal journalism education. I kind of learned this on the job, and the brilliance that I saw in that room and from those questions and the interaction really bowled me over. One of the questions was, Mr. Holt, what do you think about the future of journalism? And I didn't want to sound patronizing, but I said, it looks pretty bright from where I am, looking out across all of you. The demand to be in programs like this, I understand, is extremely high, and that speaks so well to the future of journalism. People that want to do this, not only want to do this, they see a role for themselves, and they want to take this business to an even higher level, to make us even better at what we do. So support them in any way you can. I am a product of mentorship, of people who cared enough to correct me, to admonish me, to go over my scripts and just be there for me. And it's so important that if you care about journalism, and if you're in the lives of a young journalist, to lend your ear and do whatever you can to encourage them. It's so critically important what we do. And I just, again, came away feeling so good about the future of our business. I remember a 4-year-old boy sitting in a cramped living room with his family watching Walter Cronkite anchor the funeral for President Kennedy. He didn't quite comprehend the full gravity of the moment at that very young age, but somehow he sensed the authority and sensed the steadiness that man on the TV projected during what was clearly an upsetting moment for his mother and father. It was the same face that little boy would see every night, whose voice and demeanor seemed to bring calm to the chaos he was becoming a little more aware of. The war that took his father away for an entire year, the race riots that flared just 10 miles from his family's apartment at that time. Years later, I remember that same kid perched in front of the TV, hanging on to every word as Walter Cronkite narrated this incredible journey we know as Apollo 11. It was that by now familiar authority, but this time infused with a sense of giddiness that probably everyone felt witnessing those captivating moments in our history. That kid, later a young radio reporter, couldn't wipe the smile off his face that day in 1980 during a visit to the CBS network headquarters in New York. He came face to face with Walter Cronkite as he walked out of the studio and shook his hand and said, "Hello, Mr. Cronkite." At that moment, he found Mr. Cronkite was more than a figure to admire, but rather someone whose career and approach to news he someday hoped to follow. And you know the rest of the story. That kid today anchors his own national evening news program and stands before you now honored with an award named for Walter Cronkite. I am mentally pinching myself. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to the Cronkite Endowment Board of Trustees and the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication at Arizona State University for selecting me to receive this award and for honoring me today. You've been wonderful hosts. I was thrilled when my name was first mentioned for this award, and I just couldn't be prouder to spend this time with you. And thank you for your commitment, being here, and your commitment to recognizing the importance of free and independent journalism. And thanks to everyone who was a part of this very special day. I am very pleased to be back in the Phoenix area. I'm especially grateful to my NBC News colleagues who made the trip, are sitting down here in front, and many of them a part of that video presentation you saw. Also, I appreciate some of our partners from 12 News for being here and for their support. We are only as strong as our affiliates, and we are well represented in Phoenix thanks to KPNX. And we appreciate everything that they do for us. You know, success and living one's dreams are never to be taken for granted. The journey is a team sport, and I have had the most wonderful teammates, as you've already seen today. Starting with my parents, who never burdened us. I'm the youngest of four, by the way. They never burdened us with the weight and expectations of failure, but rather allowed us the audacity of believing we could do anything, be anything, and rise above society's shackles. And boy, with that behind me, did I swing for the fences. Or to use another sports metaphor, I was punching way out of my weight class. At the age of 17, I had landed a job DJing music on a weekend midnight radio show in Sacramento. The teammate who helped make that happen and in fact planted the broadcast seed in me in the first place is here today. My oldest brother, Mike, is down front. Mike is he's a former broadcaster, and he was damn good at it too, but he opened some critical doors for me as he decided to leave the business and go fly airplanes for the military and Alaska Airlines later on. This is a guy you want in your corner, and I am grateful he has always been there for me. As a 10 or 11-year-old, he used to sneak me into the radio station he worked at and let me touch the controls, and as I said, that's where the broadcasting seed was planted, so I'm so glad that Mike and my sister-in-law, Susan, they live in the Valley of the Sun, and I'm so glad they could be here and share this moment with me. Thanks, guys. Love you. So, swinging away out of my weight class, right? Months out of high school, I was sending my resume and tapes to radio stations in big cities like New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and hearing mostly no thanks. Surprise, surprise. The rejection letters all read pretty much the same, but there is one I like to look at from time to time. I don't want to quote from it if I can. It says, "I was impressed with your credentials. However, it's not exactly what we're looking for at this time. Good luck with your career." I should note what makes this one special and particularly satisfying is it came from NBC. I love that letter. I smile every time. What's the saying? The best revenge is living well? All right. But, you know, it was ultimately news, not playing music, that would become my passion, and those jobs in San Francisco and Los Angeles and New York and Chicago would come, all preparing me for the many doors that would open along my path. One of the things I came to believe and understand along the way is that we spend an awful lot of time climbing the career ladder that we often fail to pause to take a look at the view around us. And so if you would ask me about my career arc in, say, early 2015, I would have said I've probably gone as high as I will go in this business. And believe me, that was not said from bitterness. That was absolutely fine. The jobs to which I might have aspired at the time were all filled. And besides, the view where I was pretty awesome. I was anchoring Dateline, the weekend editions of NBC Nightly News, and Today, and I was traveling the world on major stories and assignments. But as the saying goes, man plans and God laughs, and here I am. I think of this as my bonus job, the one I didn't see coming. And I couldn't be more proud to be the current steward of a program with a 75-year tradition of excellence and integrity. It has become common at gatherings like this to bemoan the assault on journalism that we see before us these days. The low blows from the highest places are a threat to not only the First Amendment, a fundamental pillar of our democracy, but to journalism around the world. Some of the tweets and tirades we so often hear are also being heard by, and in some cases parroted by, autocratic leaders around the world in justifying repression of independent journalism. But that said, I am of the mind that this is an amazing and important moment for American journalism. Yeah, we're getting knocked around a little bit, called enemies of the people, but this is important to remember. No one is preventing us from doing our jobs, and so that's what we need to do, is do our jobs. Thank you. Now, Now, don't start squirming. This is not going to be a political speech, but I want to say this, and this is not a political judgment, to acknowledge that the Trump presidency has rocked the bedrock of political tradition, our institutions, and our global alliances. And some in this room may take that as a positive, others may take it as a negative. And feel free to speak among yourselves in the lobby on that. What is not in dispute is that we have watched a rolling turnover of leadership at this country's most vital, important agencies. In 3 years, we've witnessed a special counsel investigation and now a fast-moving impeachment inquiry. These are big, big, big stories. There are few things more serious than contemplating the removal of a duly elected president. I'm surprised by how many people come up to me and express worry about the current state of division and sincerely ask me, they look at me and say, are we going to be okay? And the one thing I've quickly discovered when you take this job of nightly news anchor, people think suddenly you're smarter and more wise and that you have this all-knowing wisdom. Listen, I can't answer whether we're going to be okay, but I can tell you that in my lifetime, this country has weathered a lot. Vietnam, race riots, political assassinations, the resignation of a president, to 9/11. And let me just remind everyone that it was a free and independent press that gave us, as a nation, the clarity and facts that those moments demanded, and in many cases, exposed critical truths. These too are moments that demand clarity and fearlessness, reporting that exposes and cuts through serial assaults on the truth. Rather than lick our wounds, this is journalism's time to shine a light in dark places as we never had before, and to hold individuals and institutions of power accountable. That's what we do, that is our calling, and that's what we will do. Journalism naturally gloms onto conflict, and increasingly our work has been used as an instrument of conflict. We're trained and learn to deal in facts, but know that our reporting must cut through a thick partisanship that too often clings to what it wants to be true while showing an aversion to what might actually be true. Our efforts to distinguish ourselves can sometimes be daunting in that we exist in a media landscape that we know is fractured in purpose and ethics. And we wonder why news consumers can sometimes be confused, even mistrustful. The boutiquization of news media, as I like to call it, has provided plenty of storefront windows with which we can shop for the news that captures the world exactly as we want to see it. There are provocative and opinion-oriented programs for any taste that have great power to steer the conversation. Programs that, by the way, and it's important to note, can certainly be smart, enlightening, and informative. I watch them and find I get a lot out of them. And to a large extent, they're transparent about what they offer. But they call what I do, sometimes with a sense of derision, mainstream media. I fully accept that label. On nightly news, we see our mission as telling you what we know and what we don't know, offering smart analysis, deep sourcing, and perspective. Our agenda? The truth. Recognizing that not every story is going to be admired or easily accepted. The fact is, news that happens to be contrary to one's beliefs or damning to their position does not mean it's false. And while there are often two sides to the story, objectively, they are not always equal, nor should they be treated that way, frankly. Yet we can't operate in a vacuum. We're fully aware of the environment in which we report. The seeds of media distrust that have been planted in our pathways to the truth require us to be bold, but also transparent. Our natural enthusiasm for a big story can never be mistaken for glee or arrogance. We will and should be judged by the quality and integrity of our reporting. In my opinion, there's no more important skill right now in our society than that of critical thinking. The term media, we hear media this, media that, that covers an awful lot of territory and a lot of platforms, and not all are created equal. Not all share the same basic creed. All of us, reporters and news consumers, need to hold information up to the light, examine it, and consider the quality of sources, the possible motives, and what it may not be telling you. At Nightly News, we recognize the world, though, is a lot bigger than politics, which is why we have created several franchises, ongoing reporting on issues ranging from at-risk children to drug addiction to, you saw a little on tape, one that I'm especially proud of, Justice for All. That's our continuing examination of the criminal justice system and reform. And as you noted in that video, it did recently take me on a journey of understanding, living behind the bars of a maximum security prison for a special Dateline hour. It was eye-opening, it was a life-changing moment. It also had a few unintended consequences. The day after it aired, I'm in an airport lounge. A woman recognizes me, and at more than a conversational tone, she goes, "Oh my God, Lester Holt, you just got out of prison." Boy, the heads that snapped around for that one. Folks, let me explain. But yeah, and then people have told me their children, they see the promo and they think I'm still locked up, but I'm happy to be free, and it was an amazing journey of discoveries, I noted. One of my mentors when I was starting out used to say that while the anchor desk is seen as the prize in our business, the highest calling in this craft is being a reporter. And that's how I see myself more than anything. The anchor desk is great, it's shiny, and a lot of people watch you, and the money's better, and prestige, and all those things. But the most important, exciting moments in my career have been out there, not sitting in a studio. It's why you'll find me in the field a lot, reporting from far-flung corners of the world, North Korea to Iran, to tragedies here at home, and important interviews from President Trump to President Rouhani. I'm grateful to also wear the hat of principal host of Dateline, a program that has elevated the art of storytelling like really no other program in television news. I'm proud to say Dateline, now in its 28th season, was inducted into the Broadcasting and Cable Hall of Fame just last week. I'm so proud to be associated with that program and have that part of my portfolio. Thank you. I cannot accept an honor like this without mentioning my most important teammate in my success, my wife Carol, who, thank you. She heard me practice this speech, so she knows what I'm going to say. We met when I was a radio reporter, and one of our first dates involved a 2-day detour to a brush fire that I was assigned to call. We were supposed to go out for dinner, and I said, well, I have to go to a brush fire. You want to come? We call that our hot date. So I always say that, listen, you married me with eyes wide open about the demands of this business, but it was a fun courtship. But I say that to say this business, and I mentioned this to the students I talked to today, and it's something that you need to think about and understand. This business takes a toll on our family lives, our loved ones. The bell rings sometimes at the most inconvenient times, and it's off to the airport or off to the next big story, and it does take a personal toll. And I want to acknowledge that and publicly thank Carol for her love and support and her endless, and I mean endless, patience. But she's my prime teammate. Thank you, and I love you. So this bonus job has been pretty cool. It's been an amazing experience. I swell with pride when people tell me our broadcast is appointment television in their homes. Sometimes people ask me, do you get bothered when people stop you on the street? On the contrary, I say. How many of us have jobs where strangers stop you and tell you you're doing a good job? I got to tell you that. Sometimes they tell you you're doing a bad job, but but mostly good job. And what gives me faith about journalism in America in the face of the criticism that you hear a lot now? It's a number of people who come up to me and my colleagues and say, thank you. It happened just here today. It happened in the Biltmore shopping mall where I were yesterday, saying thank you for telling the truth. Thank you for asking the tough questions. They're recognizing the importance of journalism as part of our democracy, our society. Folks, every day from the moment that we pick up our phones until we lay them on the nightstand at night, we're being told what to think, what we should be outraged about, what's trending. It's a really, really noisy world out there. What we try to do every evening on my broadcast is invite you into a quiet place where we leverage our journalism experience, our global reach, our technology, and just try to tell you what happened, what it means, and how it might impact you. These are different times than when Walter Cronkite delivered the news, and there will never be anyone quite like him. But his authenticity, his attention to detail, calm demeanor, and this is really important, respect for the viewer are values and skills that all of us in front of the camera should aspire. And as Walter himself would likely conclude, that's the way it is. Thank you. Thank you for the honor. Thank you for your attention. And thank you so much for this wonderful award. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.